This video is on subtracting fractions with a common denominator. Now in fourth grade, when we add and subtract fractions, our denominators stay the same whenever we're adding or subtracting. So to get started, I have laid out before my board some fractions. Let's go ahead and name each fraction. So here I've got third pieces and there's two of them. So here we have 2/3. Here are some fourth pieces and there are three of those fourths. So there's 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pieces and my pieces are in fifths. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces and my pieces are in eighths. So here I've got 2/3, 3/4, 4/5, and 7/8. Now when subtracting fractions with a common denominator, it can look a lot of different ways. This is the most basic and simple form of subtraction. So let's take the first fraction, for instance. Here I've got 2/3. If I want to take away 1/3, all I simply do is take away one of the pieces. And you can see I've got 1/3 left. So when subtracting fractions, we look at the numerator, which is our number of pieces. So I had 2 pieces, I took away 1 piece, and that left me with 1 piece. Now, if you look at that denominator, it is still in thirds. We do not subtract that denominator. The size of the piece doesn't change. Whether you add or subtract a fraction, the size of your piece doesn't change. So that 3 stays the same. Let's look at the next example. Here I have 3/4. So if I have 3/4 pieces, let's say I have 3/4 a cup of sugar and I use 2/4. I'm going to take away 2/4. When I took away those 2/4, that left me with 1 piece, because looking at my numerator, 3 pieces minus 2 pieces is 1 piece. Now looking at my piece that's left, it is still in fourths. And you can see again, my denominator does not change. I'm merely subtracting the numerator, the number of pieces. Here's the fraction 4/5. Let's subtract 2/5. So here's my 4 pieces. Let's take away 2 of those pieces. And you can see how many pieces we have left. We have 2 pieces left, and my denominator is still in fifths. Okay, again, here's 7/8. Let's subtract 5/8 this time. So when I take away 5/8, we're going to take away 5 pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I took 5 pieces away, and that left me with 2. Because 7 minus 5 is 2. My numerator is what I'm actually subtracting. And if I look at those pieces that are left, they are both still in eighths. The size of your piece does not change. Now, let's get a little bit more involved. So that is just some basic subtracting fractions. Let's do some examples where we're going to have to think a little bit deeper. So sometimes you'll be given an example like this. Miss Moore filled 1 whole cup of milk. I drank 1/4 of it. How much is left? Now, if I was to represent this using my fraction tiles, I would start with my whole. And as you can see, we have to take out 1/4. Now, I'm not going to build the 1/4 because we're not adding it. I don't need to add it on there. I have to take it out of this. Now, this is tricky because if I have a whole, it's not in parts. I can't just break off a piece of my whole. We can't do that. So we have to find a way to take this whole and, in a sense, regroup it and turn it into fourths, but still leaving it a whole. So to do that, I'm going to take my whole and we are going to convert that whole piece into 4/4. And if you can see that, it's still a whole. I still have the whole amount there. I just merely took that whole and turned it into 4/4. Now that I have in fourths, now I'm able to take away one of those fourths. And when I do that, and I take away 1/4, I'm taking away one piece. That leaves me with 3 pieces, and they are in fourths. So I can come down here and rewrite that. We started with 1 whole. I took away 1/4, and that left me with 3/4. So right here, in a sense, we had to take that whole and convert it into 4/4. It's still a whole, but we had to turn it into those fractional pieces to be able to take away. Let's do a couple more examples like this. So this time, let's say I have 1 whole, and this time, let's say I want to subtract 3/6. Now, again, looking at the fraction that we have to subtract, I'm not going to build that. I'm not going to put 3/6 and lay that down. That would be adding, and we're not adding. We're taking away. So I can't take 3/6 out of a whole like this because my whole is all in one piece. I can't sit here and break off pieces to get that into where I can take off 3/6. So in a sense, we're going to have to convert this whole into the fractional part. Now, to know what to convert that into, you're going to have to look at your denominator, okay? Our denominator is in 6ths. That tells me that if I have 1 whole, I know that 6/6 is going to be equivalent to that whole. So here is 6/6. That is equivalent to 1 whole. When I convert that whole into fractional pieces, I'm now able to take away 3 of those pieces. So let's write down what we just did. We started with a whole. Knowing that I had to take out 3/6, I couldn't do that. So we have to take that whole and turn it into a fraction. It is still 1 whole, but now I'm able to take pieces out of it. So we were subtracting 3/6. So let's take out 3/6. 1, 2, 3. And that leaves me with 3 pieces because 6 pieces minus 3 pieces is 3 pieces. And again, if I subtract my denominator, the size of my piece, it does not change. It remains in 6ths. Let's do one more example like this. So this time, let's take a whole, but instead of 1 whole, let's make it 2 whole pieces. So here is 2 wholes. So now I have 2. Let's say Miss Moore has got 2 gallons of milk, and my daughter comes and drinks 1/8 of the gallons. How much is left? Now, knowing that I have 2 wholes, I cannot take 1/8 out of a whole. I can't take this whole piece and break it up. So I'm going to have to convert. Now, knowing that I only have to take out 1 piece, I do not have to convert both of those pieces. I only need to convert one of the pieces. And to know what to convert it into, I have to look at my denominator. My denominator is in 8ths. So I know that I'm going to have to take one of these wholes and turn it into 8/8. 8/8 will still be a whole. So I'm going to take this one and we're going to convert it now into 8/8. There we go. Now, As you can see, 8/8 is equivalent to 1 whole. I still have 2 whole there. They're still there. We just took one of those whole and we turned it into 8ths. So let me show you what that looks like on paper. So we started with 2 whole, and I know that I really did not need to convert both of those. We only needed to convert one. So when I did this, I took one of my wholes and that left me with 1. And my second whole we turned into 8/8. Now that I have that in fractions, now I'm ready to take away. So let me rewrite it so it looks a little bit more clean down here. So we have 1 whole now and 8/8. We converted one of those wholes into fractions. Now I'm able to take away 1/8. So let's do that now. So if I take away 1/8 piece, that leaves me with 7/8. But is that all? No, don't forget that whole. That 1 whole that we left, it's still there. So all together, I have 1 whole and 7/8 left after converting one of my pieces to a whole. Subtracting fractions is very simple if you just remember that when subtracting, you take away your numerators. Denominators stay the same. Just because you're taking away doesn't mean it changes the size of your piece.